Okay, good day everyone. I am Caracel B. Fernandez and this is JED 4 Ethics. So we are assigned on the topic of the Lesson 3, the question of women and their emancipation. So I am assigned by my group mates on how we can work toward emancipation. Today, the women's emancipation movement is an ongoing project with women continuing the struggle for equality while discovering various and creative ways of being women. The aims of the movement continue to evolve with more and more women exploring social realities and exposing how economic, communication, governance, and cultural system oppress women. So as before, feminists of all genders explore how women can continue to push against the boundaries of oppression. Despite this, it is still clear that women are not fully equal in our shared world. Thus, we must ask ourselves how to think about the good with a mind to realize gender equality and genuine liberation. So there are many areas to consider when thinking about doing the good using women's ethical perspective. The first, of course, is to protect the rights of women. As women activists rightly remind us, women's rights are human rights. This means that the first thing we must do is, with regard to the liberation of women, is to ensure that all their rights are preserved. So this is the sum of their rights, which is the right to life, the right to the means of survival, the right to education, the right to bodily integrity, the right to access healthcare. So these are all very basic rights. However, these rights are easily violated for women. And one of their right is the right to education. The right to education is important because it prepares people to intelligently and freely participate in the life of their community. So through education, we become creative people who can participate in the task of building our shared world. But many women are denied the most basic education and thus are deprived of the knowledge about how their government works, about their economic systems, and the going on about the world around them. In some countries, women are kept from getting any kind of education because of certain cultural beliefs that takes on the form of religious dogma. This puts women at a great disadvantage because they deprive of the capacity to creatively participate, ensure their rights in their societies. So it is very important to for women to have an education or to be educated, because this allow them to become a creative person. Next is the bodies of women are also violated all the time for various reasons. Some cultures believe that the husbands can use their wives sexually without her consent. Other societies believe that women can be kidnapped and treated as sex slaves and indentured servants just because they are unprotected. So many societies believe that the rape is a weapon of war and the men can violate the bodies of women to sow fear in a community. The right of women to do their bodily integrity and their dignity as human beings must be respected and protected. But it seems that because they are women, it is easy for many people to forget that women's rights are basic human rights. Other than their basic human rights, there are rights that need special attention and protection. Other than their basic human rights, there are rights that need special attention and protection. For instance, the right to their reproductive health. Women who bear children have a right to medical treatment that pertains to their health from pregnancy to motherhood. This means access to prenatal medicines and care, access to safe childbirth methods, and mother and child health care. It may also mean access to birth control methods because having too many children may be dangerous for women. In some cultures, women are deprived of the basic care because They are too poor and are not prioritized by their government. It is also possible that they are just not valued as much as men and do not receive equal support. Whatever the reason, reproductive health must be prioritized by a society. Violence against women is another special area of concern because of the status of women as a lower form of humanity and because they are often seen as property. Women are subjected to all kinds of psychological and physical abuse. Other than rape, they are prone to physical beatings and psychological torture from abusive spouses. Thus, there must be a special focus on the analysis of the roots of this violence and legislation and social reform to prevent it. There are laws specifically addressed to prevent violence against women, and there are organizations that educate the public about the violence and counsel its victims. If societies or if the society is made aware of what acts are effectively violent against women, and women are counseled to realize the abuse that they do not have to suffer, then the violence could end. Finally, it is important to engage in critical thinking with regard to women's issues. Every society needs to explore and reflect on itself. Why are they so prone to violence against their women? What function does the oppression of women fulfill? And why is it necessary? Usually, the practices that propagate violence against women are rooted in some practice that was useful for a society. And so, we must ask, why is it necessary to circumcise women? How does it help to build those civilizations that why do you like to keep women from active participation in governance of the state? Why is prostitution necessary? What function does it realize? We need to find this out and critically examine if these practices serve anything but the suppression of more than half of the world's population. Another thing to do is analyze social institutions and practices to expose the violence they commit against women. Some institutions seem benign but actually propagate violence. For instance, the institution that enshrine women's purity and honor may actually end up enslaving them by keeping them away from public sphere. The adoration of women's bodies in fine arts could actually reinforce the continued objectification of women as decoration or objects of desire. The celebration of women's virtues for care, patience, and gentleness could limit their self-realization and their choice of vocations. People need to critically examine the institution, tradition, and ways of life that could effectively limit the possibilities for women. This means that we should genuinely appreciate those that prove to be empowering and reform those that work against women's interests. Of course, this is difficult work. It seems easier in the 20th century to judge how societies treated their women based on standards that Western women set. For instance, Western feminists determined that all forms of unpaid domestic work and housewifery were a form of enslavement. The choice of full-time motherhood was a choice that only uneducated enslaved women would make. So, if you are uneducated and enslaved, the only choice you have is to be a full-time mother. So that's all for my topic. So thank you for watching. Hope you had fun. If you want to read about the women should not be discriminated and the Babaylan on the Philippine history, we will insert the PPT on the G Drive. That's all. Thank you.